Hello, today I'll be you the presentation on topics 6 to 8 of CMSC202 as the requirement for assignment number 3. So first on topic 6, we will be discussing about the functional programming in JavaScript. So when we talk about JavaScript functions, a JavaScript function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. And a JavaScript function is executed when something invokes it or calls it. So the basic function syntax would be that of function and then name, open and close parentheses, parameters. So there's parameter 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And between the curly braces would be the code to be executed. So the function parameters, as you can see, are names listed in the function definition. And then the function arguments are the real values received by the function when it is invoked. And inside the function, the arguments or the parameters behave as local variables. So when we talk about function invocation, the code inside the function will execute when something invokes or calls the function. And there are actually three possible ways to go about with it. So first, when an event occurs, like when a user clicks a button, or when it is invoked or called from a JavaScript code, or when it is automatically or self-invoked. So let's take an example of a code for JavaScript function so that we could better understand how to go about with it. So here you can see that there are 4 lines of the code. In the first line, it says function, my function P1, P2. So this means that the parameters P1 and P2 are assigned to my function. On code line number 2, there's actually return P1, asterisk P2, and then followed by a semicolon. So this means that the function returns the product of P1 and P2. So whichever value would be assigned to P1 and P2 later on, this would be returned by this formula. And then nothing much on the third line happens. And in the fourth line, so we can see here document.getElement by id demo.inner HTML equals my function for 3. So this means that the value as per the function my function, where P1 is given or assigned the value of 4, and then P2 is assigned the value of 3. And of course, when we return, because we're executing now the function, or we're invoking the function, so it returns P1 times P2 with the values 4 and 3, so that's 4 times 3. Hence, we're given the output of 12. So here, this is an example of how we would better understand a JavaScript function as it actually is being run with the code. So with topic 7, we talk about now the object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So JavaScript object methods are actions that can be performed on objects. So a JavaScript method is a property containing a function definition. So when we talk about function definition, you can see here that the table below shows that there are actually properties and values. So normally when we actually assign variables as properties, then we can see that like first name can be given a value of John, last name can be given a value of Doe, age can be given a value of 50, eye color can be given a value of blue, and if you can see, the variable or the property full name can actually be given a value of a function. So here, it's given the value of function, open and close parentheses, and then in the curly braces, the code to be executed is return this first name plus a space plus this last name. So the methods are functions stored as object properties. So when we access object methods, we can actually create an object with the following syntax. So method name, colon, function with open and close parentheses, and then between the curly braces would be the code lines. And then you can access the object method with the following syntax. Object name dot method name, open and close parentheses. So some notes on object methods. As you can see, the table again is presented, and you will typically describe full name, open close parenthesis, as a method of the person object, and the full name as a property. So then again, the full name, open and close parenthesis, is actually a method of the person object. And the full name property will execute as a function when invoked with the open and close parenthesis. And this example accesses full name, open and close parenthesis method of a person object. So we will go with an example in the following slide. So here we can see a JavaScript object method example so that you can better understand how it actually goes about, or how the code actually behaves as we go along with each line. So for the first line, a variable is actually being defined being that of person. So here, variable assigns person with the properties included in the curly braces. So in line 2, this would be the first property of person given first name as a property, and is assigned the value of John. On line 3, second property of person called last name is assigned the value of Doe. And then in line 4, the third property of person called ID is assigned the value of 5566. On line 5, the fourth property of person called or named full name is assigned as a function. And line 6, the code actually, or the function, contains the returning the person first name and add space and then last name. So this is the code actually to be run when the function is executed or invoked. So line 7, nothing much. Line 8, nothing much. And in line 9, you can see it tells us that document.getElement by ID demo.innerHTML equals. Now here you can see that person.full name, open and close parenthesis, will invoke or will actually call the function to run. So here, function invoked by person.full name, open and close parenthesis, thus calling the first name, as we have said a while ago, given the value of John, and then last name, given the value of Doe. So if we return this first name plus the space plus this last name, then the output would be as shown in the slide, John Doe. So John space Doe. So for topic 8, we talk about modularity in JavaScript. So what is modularity? Modularity helps the process of organizing the entire code base. So if modular approach is not applied, then the structure will grow and become out of control because of too many elements happening in just one document where all codes are actually contained. So the modular approach in JavaScript programming helps develop more structured code and make it easily maintainable so that you just have to adjust the modules by which the codes would have probably bugs or errors. So modular programming approach, we follow two things when making the structure of the application. First, we have to separate different functionalities into smaller parts which forms the module and make the relation between the modules so that we are actually able to still see through how we would want the program to run, because it's important also to assign the sequence, else the program might actually bring about errors as intended. So here it is obvious that there is the concept of dependency. So this dependency is maintained through function call with passing variables among the modules, and it works only when the modules are actually loaded. So in the concept of JavaScript loading, the JavaScripts are kept in a file with a .js extension, and it is used within a tag in an HTML so that you can actually call it out and make the file run. And it can be called by using the script tag with a source code or a source tag or a source element attributed on a web page. So the load, open and close function, parenthesis function, can also be used to load the JavaScript file. So here, can see an example below where load, open and close parentheses, so the file name sample.js is embedded within, and that when you actually run this code, it will call sample.js in the file path that is actually where it's actually located. In terms of dependency management, there are actually two ways to automate dependency management. The first approach is to create a separate file with details about the dependencies among modules. So after this, the file is actually loaded first and then determines the order to load other files. So here you can see that listing two or sample code to load dependent JavaScripts where the variable dependency object is actually assigned the sequence of the JavaScript files or modules in the sequence by which they would want to be run. So this is actually an example of how to assign the dependency so that there is actually sequence by which, or the order by which file would be loaded first and which file would be loaded next. In the second approach, we do not use any of the script tag within the HTML file. Instead, we use eval or evaluate function to execute the content as a JavaScript code. So the evaluate function takes string as an argument and execute it as a JavaScript code. So here you can see an example of the eval, of using the eval function as stipulated below. For the window object, as the browser loads JavaScript file, all top-level variables are placed in a single place called the window object. So this window is used along with the object to access these variables. And the method can be used by calling show function with an argument like show window. So here you can see an example of the implementation of module in JavaScript. And this sample module is showing the translation of month and their number. So here you can see that the function actually assigns new month name mod, open and close parentheses. So this is the function. And you can actually see that variables, the variable month names are assigned with an array of the actual months. And then basically there's another function that's given for the get month number. So there's a for loop and an if statement. So you can see here that it actually generates us the month number. And as mentioned earlier, basically on the window, so here is the window that get month name, so it will get the month name. And the second one, window that get month number, will get the month number. And basically this invokes the function to actually run. So the last one, show get month name 7. So this would basically tell us which is the 7th month. So that would probably be most likely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's July. So different functions are called to show the month name by passing the number as an argument. So this one. And the last line that you can see where the function is actually located. So hopefully you're actually able to get clear concepts in the first 3 topics, and thank you very much.